Welcome back to Newsroom. I'm George Howell. A new Twitter attack from the U.S. president, blasting the father of the UCLA basketball player who was arrested on shoplifting charges in China. LaVar Ball's son is one of 3 players arrested. His father downplayed President Trump's involvement in getting his son released, and then a Twitter feud ensued. Let's get some context now with Peter Mathews. Peter is a political analyst and political science professor at Cypress College, joining us live this hour from Los Angeles. A pleasure to have you here on the show, Peter. Let's talk about this latest Twitter tirade involving the President of the United States responding to the father of LaVar Ball, who downplayed the President's role in his son's release. And we've seen personalized attacks like this before, these counterpunches, as the President's staff would describe them. What purpose do they serve?
Not at all. I think that it was gracious of him to go ahead and, as president, try to talk the Chinese president to allow these young men to go and be released on, early. And yet, for him to come back, and then when LaVar Ball's father had made those comments, President Trump said, I should have left all of them in jail. Now, what did it have to do with the other 2 gentlemen? The other 2 young men had nothing to do with this, and I think it was very small on his part to come out and get piqued by that kind of comment, rather than just being magnanimous and just overlooking it, because he did do a good thing by getting them out of prison early. I think he let himself down by responding the way he did to LaVar Ball.
Well, we do know that the president does certainly watch a lot of television. He does pay close attention to these things and responds quickly when he feels attacked on Twitter. So we've seen another instance of that. Let's move on now to the situation playing out in the U.S. state of Alabama with Judge Roy Moore, who's running for Senate. Now, he's long argued that the national media is against him with these accusations of sexual misconduct, accusations that he, in fact, denies. But the hometown papers now, the 3 biggest local papers in Alabama, are all telling their readers to reject him. So this is no longer an issue of this argument about the national media. Now the hometown papers are coming into play. What impact might that have with local opinions on Mr. Moore?
It's going to definitely be a very close race, because Alabama is heavily Republican. It's been voting since 1980 for Republican presidential candidates and even for the senators. So you've got a situation here where, the 3 major newspapers coming out in favor of Doug Jones and putting it on an ethical level, saying that Alabamians, stand up for the right thing and be ethical and choose the right person. They've actually endorsed Doug Jones. Very remarkable for a Democrat to get endorsed. It could have an effect, especially in a very close race like this, despite the fact that polls show that Doug Jones is 8 points ahead of Moore. It's going to be very close, because sometimes people say they're going to vote for someone, and yet they change their mind when they're in the voting booth. And it's going to be very, very interesting to watch this. But the papers do help, and the endorsement does help somewhat, especially in a close race.
We'll have to see what impact that has, with the days ahead until voters make their final decision on this. Peter, let's also talk about what's ahead here with the president's tax reform plan. The future now in the Senate of that bill, and the fate a bit uncertain. What are some of the key issues, the sticking points here that would decide the future of this bill among a divided Senate?
Yeah, the sticking point has to do with the proposal to get rid of the individual mandate, which means the Obamacare will be completely dismantled, because, if that goes through, that's going to be a problem for funding. And the other thing is the taxes. Should they be low, should be more corporate loopholes closed or not? And some of the Republicans are very concerned about not closing corporate loopholes while lowering the tax rate for corporations and not doing it so much for the working people or for individuals. There's differences between the Republican House and the Republican Senate version, so it should be very interesting to see how they work this out. And those are the main differences, so we'll just have to wait and see. It's a few more days to go, maybe a week or 2 after Thanksgiving. They will come down with some decision soon.
Peter Mathews, we appreciate your time. And again, talking about that election, as the banner says, the election set for December 12th. That will be a very important election that will certainly decide the balance of the Senate. So we'll have to see, of course, how that plays out with Judge Roy Moore and the allegations against him. Thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you.